Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us today as we start our Data Month at our Improving Talks initiative. Our improvers are passionate thought leaders who love to share their knowledge. That is why we have weekly live sessions every Wednesday at 12 p.m. for you. My name is Armando Lopez from the Mexico office, and I am very happy to welcome you today.
And my name is Lynn Barrett from the Dallas office, and Armando and I love to present together. So today will be co-producing this session.
Thank you, my co-producer in crime. So now we want to talk a little bit about our cool host for today. Scott Stauffer is a principal consultant at Improving with over 25 years of experience in the data field. He has been recognized as a Microsoft Data Platform MVP for 12 consecutive years and is now an MVP alumni. Scott has a passion for data and enjoys connecting with like-minded data enthusiasts. He has spent the better part of his career moving data around, primarily using Microsoft Data Platform solutions like SQL Server, Power BI, and Microsoft Fabric. Additionally, Scott has been an independent consultant for over a decade, helping clients solve their data challenges and extract valuable insights from their business data. Such a rockstar.
Yes, but he doesn't live in Improving, right? He has passion work, which involves volunteering for the BC and Alberta guide dogs, where he and his wife, Joan, have raised Annie, a guide dog in training, who today is a PTSD dog servicing a local veteran. We are very honored to welcome him today with this webinar, 5 Mistakes That Can Kill Your Data Analytics Project and How to Avoid Them. Really important stuff. Please remember you can use our Q&A feature so you can ask him any questions during this webinar, and we'll make sure that he answers them live. And now we leave you with Scott Stauffer. The microphone is yours, Scott.
Thank you, Armando and Lynn. Appreciate it. Have you ever been in a project and felt deep in the pit of your stomach that this project just isn't going to land well? I think we've all felt a little queasy at one time or another in our career with such a feeling. Today, we're going to talk about 5 mistakes I think can kill your data analytics project and how to avoid them. I encourage you, the attendees, to share some of your thoughts and ideas during the discussion as well. Armando and Lynn introduced me. This slide is fairly scant, but it contains the information you need if you want to connect with me after the presentation on LinkedIn. LinkedIn.com/in/Scott Stauffer is the best way to connect with me. I've also added a GitHub link there. My username is Scott Stauffer on GitHub, so that you can get a copy of the slides if you're interested. And yes, it's 8-week anniversary for myself at Improving. I'm pretty excited to be part of the team. I've known some of the individuals for over a decade in working out of the Winnipeg office, the Winnipeg enterprise, as they like to call it. And however, I'm on the West Coast. But yeah, as Lynn mentioned, raised Annie, also boarded some guide dogs in training over the last few years, in addition to chaperoning some of them on airplane rides to their next destination in their education to become guide dogs. Also participated in fundraising for guide dogs in the UK while at SQL Bits last spring, and we were able to raise £4,000 in donations, which is just amazing. So I continue to be an active cheerleader for BC Alberta Guide Dogs and Guide Dogs for the Blind in the UK. Our topic today is 5 mistakes that can kill your data analytics project and how you can avoid them. So the shape of this presentation, we're going to talk about those 5 mistakes, those death traps. Then we're going to find out, hey, did we miss any? Do you have a train wreck story to share and how perhaps you've righted the train on the track? And then we'll have some closing thoughts. So that's the shape of the presentation today. So we'll get started. Death trap number 1, no clear goals or objectives. This presentation, I gathered these different death traps or things that can put your project at risk. And I looked at a number of different articles online, and this one seemed to come up in different forms again and again. And I feel it is perhaps one of the most pertinent one, not the most important one, but it's the one that certainly popped up the most. So with no clear objectives, what does that look like? How could that even happen? How can you get started on a project and not have any clear goals or objectives? And I thought about that, and I thought about the hype curve. And of course, this is Gartner's hype curve. You can go online. Gartner is a research and guidance company for technology organizations. And you can see on the y-axis, you have expectations. On the x-axis, you've got time, and you've got the innovation trigger taking place. And the peak of inflated expectations, followed by the trough of disillusionment, and the slope of enlightenment, followed thereafter by the plateau of productivity. It sounds amazing. We often get taken in by hype. This is a good way of just sort of balancing reality against the hype, perhaps. Have a look online at some of the hype curves for technologies throughout the years. It'll be interesting to see where things happened and how they pinpoint things on that timeline. Hype can certainly do that. There's this pressure to produce that next greatest thing. Back in the day, it was like, oh, we needed a data warehouse. We need to do that. Today, it's, oh, we need a chat bot. There's that pressure for these new things and having the new shiny things. The fear of missing out, or FOMO, is pretty significant. So people get time and budget to explore, and sometimes those explorations aren't stopped and said, okay, what can we set as a goal or objective to ensure that we're actually going to reach that objective, reach that destination we're looking to reach? What do we need to do to create a chatbot, and how do we know we're successful? Those are things that one would need to look at. How do we know when you're finished, of course, is another challenge of not having any goals or objectives. Without that North Star, you're just wasting your time and your organization's money. And, it's difficult to collaborate with other people when you don't have any defined goals or objectives, because they're not a shared understanding, whereas you might have with having a set of documents that state what your projects is all about and what you're trying to accomplish. So you have different people with different thoughts on where things should go. Also, an indication of being this is an indication of being disconnected from the business. If you don't have goals, if the business is, I guess, if you're connected with the business, your goals and objectives are likely going to be set with the business. And so it's just a good indication that maybe there's an opportunity to talk with the business, engage with the business, and get a sense of where things need to be. So with that, let's mitigate that risk. Let's start by engaging with the business. The business pays the bills. And so I think too, you want to have smart goals. And so as the diagram shows, you need them to be specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time bound. Specific enough to say, have we succeeded? At the end of the day, you want to be able to say yes or no, you've accomplished your goal. Having some measurements, quantitative versus qualitative, really help to define whether you've met your success. I think additionally too, your goals need to be achievable, because if they're just so lofty and so unattainable, people are going to get disenchanted and not follow through with their goals. They're not going to even make a mark. So it's important that they're achievable. Lofty, yes, not overly so. Relevant, they really do need to serve the business. They need to resonate with your organization. And time bound, yes, you may fall short. You may not get it done on time if it's a very lofty goal. Maybe you're 90% of the way there within your time frame, and you do just need another week. Well, there's that opportunity to, with continued engagement in the business, you can reestablish that time bound, that time limit that you have, And maybe it's only 10% more, but at least you're communicating with the business to get that extension. But ideally, you're going to set some reasonable time limits to accomplish those goals. I think it's also important too, goals versus objectives. I think this comes up quite a bit. A goal is really a desired outcome, whereas the objective are the tasks required to achieve those outcomes. So that, I hope that helps. But yeah, how else do we mitigate this risk? Again, we get buy-in from the business. If they have skin in the game, if they're participating, you're going to be able to get those goals. They're the goals of the organization, not just goals, personal goals you have. And when they are goals that the whole organization has and they align with the organization, it's much more likely that you're going to get support in achieving those goals. But most importantly, too, hey, call us. Improving can help with this. We can help you set your goals and objectives for your data products and help you build a roadmap to accomplish that. And I think, too, there's a Tomorrow Technology Today Improving Talk series that took place last year. And Devlin Lyles presented this session, and he talked about chasing trends and chasing the technology trends rather than focusing on strategic business needs. Check this out. It's on the YouTube channel. I rather enjoyed it. I think you will too. I think it really falls in with the hype curve that was talked about on the first slide. So we've got the second death trap, lack of business engagement. And we talked a little bit about this in the first one, but I think there's enough to really fill another talking point here. Lack of building business engagement. If you build it, they will come. Many of you probably remember the Kevin Costner movie where Kevin's character plowed over a cornfield and built a baseball stadium for ghosts of baseball players past. Like super feel good movie. However, it lacked the engagement with other individuals. He built this on his own. How is this going to work? In business world, you can't build something on your own without involving the business. You need the support of the executives. You need to have a strong business sponsor. You need to be able to talk with the levels of management, to be able to talk with and get time with those subject matter experts in the business that can help define and help set the priorities of a data product. You also need that guy or that girl, that individual that really understands the business, that produce solutions off the side of their desk that the people in the business use and they trust, and they go to these people to get answers. You want to connect with those special subject matter experts that are in the know, that have organizational roots and they have connections within the organizations because they've been seen to deliver good things in the past. You want to connect with those people. Not connecting with those people could leave you ending up creating reports that have very little business value and business impact. You don't want that to happen. You also don't want to produce something and find out later that people are still using those old reports that your data product was supposed to replace. They keep going back to the old, the familiar, the comfortable, because it's what they're used to. Their choice is to continue using the old, and a lot of times you've got nothing to stop them from doing so. So just because you create something, if you do not give people involvement, they're not going to adopt your new data solution, your new data product. Let's engage the business. On the left here, you can see The Speed of Trust. It's a book that if you start at improving, you'll get a copy of this sent to you before your first day. It's a great book, but it talks about building trust in organizations. And I think that's probably paramount to all of these 5 death traps. It's so important to build trust with your customers, trust among your team, but it all starts with trust. for strong business engagement in a successful project, you really need to recruit a strong business sponsor. The Data Warehouse Lifecycle Toolkit, a book written by the Kimball Group, talks about assessing your readiness for data projects and programs, data warehouse programs. And it says the most important factor they find in the success of a data project is having a strong business sponsor. And a lot of times that's a sponsor that's not an IT business sponsor. You'll want to have someone who's in the business, someone that can remove roadblocks, someone who can see the vision, someone who who's politically astute and influential, so that when things go wrong, and they will, they'll be able to handle things. They'll be able to make resources available to you, and they'll be able to connect you with the people to weather through the storm. How else do you engage? Using empathy, active listening, and clear communication. Empathy is that process of putting yourself into the shoes of the other individual. You want to do this with your business community so that they are part of the process. By listening to what is important to them, you will learn what you'll need to produce to give them the solutions and the tools they need to do their work every day. That'll happen through questions that you can ask, like, hey, what do you need to be successful? What do you need to make decisions? What do you need to reduce risks, to increase revenue and costs? These are the important questions that are going to help give them what they need. I think another important thing is, and this comes from Hit Refresh, a book by Satya Nadella and a team of Microsoft that wrote this book. And it really talks about a growth mindset. It speaks to that, and it speaks to that: be a learn-it-all versus a know-it-all. A learn-it-all is someone who is going to drop their preconceived biases and learn with fresh eyes and really listen. Whereas a know-it-all really goes at the, hey, if you know it all and you have it all, what more do you need to learn? It really turns off the listening ears, as they say, and I think it's important, to be that learn-it-all. It shows people you're listening. It shows people that you are ready to work with them. And establish IT business partners. I've seen in organizations where different departments with HR, operations, manufacturing, they will have individuals that are IT business partners, and it's a cross-functional team, and you'll have the opportunity to work with these individuals to connect with people in the HR department, in the operations department, and if you need access to the subject matter experts, either they're the experts or they have access to those individuals, and they'll have insights about how the department runs, so that when you are building products, you're building products in consolidation and cooperation with those other business units. So that's another way to engage with the business. So this is overlooking data governance is our third death trap. Data governance, that's a big one. That's a heavy one, in the sense that there's a lot of different people that have a lot of different ideas on what data governance is. A lot of people also talk about data governance products, but there's a lack of discussion of, well, it's more about the people and the processes, less about the product. To be successful, you need to get people involved. You need to have processes that you establish. The tools are there to help facilitate that. So I looked at a few different definitions, and I came across this one. And this one was actually constructed by the search engine. It looked at a definition by AWS and one by Salesforce. And I'm going to read this out because I think it's important. Data governance is a critical component of an organization's data strategy, focusing on the management and regulation of data assets to ensure they're used effectively, efficiently, and responsibly across various business units. It establishes standards for data accuracy, completeness, and consistency, providing relevant, current, and easy to interpret data that stakeholders can trust. And there's that word again, trust. I think that's a good place to start. Where I'm going to show some visuals that from different software vendors and IT vendors and how they see governance. And you'll be able to see some common threads through that and some of the topics that I bring up, some of the elements I bring up while I talk about this. But yeah, the visual on the right, is your organization doing data governance? Yeah, the lovely pie chart with I would say about 3/4 of it says, what is data governance? And that this is understandable. But what might some uh, indications be that your data governance needs some attention? Compliance violations. We've got industry specific compliance items like SOX and HIPAA, and then we also have country and region specific like GDPR, CCPA. Maybe I'm sure that the audience listening can think of 3 or 4 that affect them, but it's all about, your organization was very likely driven or guided by compliance standards by industry and region that you need to be aware of, and your data product may have to conform to. So talk with those people in your organization, find out what needs to be done. They're important. Data breaches, we hear about that in the news frequently, too frequently. And not only is it a huge risk of fines, as in compliance, it's also reputation and trust, and that those are hard ones to recover from. That's certainly an area of data governance you don't want to ignore. Inconsistent master data leading to eroding trust. Again, eroding trust is the demon. But inconsistent master data, you really want to make sure you have that one version of the truth. You want to have one list of customers, not 14 different lists managed by 17 different groups. You really want to have that set of master data managed in one place with some good processes. Auditing nightmares. You want a solution that's audible. You don't want to have your finance people and your auditors struggling to get information. You need to have your system to be audible. Lack of shared understanding of business terminology. It's quite common to create a business glossary as part of data governance. And that really allows your business to ensure that when they're talking about how they calculate sales is done consistently, and the terminology uses makes it so that people are talking about the same things. Things are calculated in the same manner, concepts are understood, and where there are similarities, it's called out. Important part of data governance. A lack of transparency where data comes from. Data governance addresses this by having tools that help construct data lineage, so it shows from the source system and how data flows through the different ETL processes, or ELT, extract, load, and transform, or extract, transform, and load, depending on how you've constructed your data pipelines. But where things move and how they're affected and how they get to the end product, that data lineage is critical to be able to ensure that you've got the right data and people can check and make sure things are operating properly. People being uncertain where to get answers from their data, that really speaks to the data catalog as well, and being able to have a data catalog that contains information like who is the owner of the data, who should you go to in the event that you find a problem or have a question, but making that data available in a way that you can search on keywords associated with the data you're looking for, so that it'll give you data products that help you get to the answers that you want, that help answer the questions that you have so that you can make decisions within your organization. Because the other thing too is decreased operational efficiency. When you don't have these things, when you don't have a data catalog, when you don't have data lineage, when you don't have good auditability, you're just decreasing your operational efficiency you're decreasing the operational efficiency of your organization. And so data governance allows for efficiency. These are some of the slides with from different vendors and how they see data governance. So these are the different categories of the policies of data governance from IBM and MicroStrategy perspective. And you can see here, self-service is one of them. So data accessibility, audit, you can see the word audit here. We can see trusted and governed. We can see records and retention as well. So retention of data is also important, and your data governance strategy should address the retention policy and archiving policy of your data. Also privacy and protection we spoke about. So many of the things that we talked about fit into the different categories, the policies that IBM and MicroStrategy uses. And then Databricks. Databricks data catalog is a big thing for Databricks. We also have data lineage, as mentioned before, data security, data quality, and data classification. You know, for PII, you want to make sure that only the people that need to see PII information can see that, and have it leverage data masking to ensure that others don't. Or in some cases, taking it farther, row level security or object level security and column level security on the assets that you have in your system that need to be protected. And Dataversity, you can see their idea of data governance. It all surrounds, you know, trusted data. And in order to have data-driven insights and digital transformation, you need that trusted data that's provided by collaborative data governance. So as we look at steps to establish data governance, the last slide as well, it has a lot of the same themes as the other ones. You're getting a better sense of some of the things that make up data governance. I think, how would you tackle this? How would you go forward? I think that the critical part and the recommendation by Gartner is adopt a data governance approach that enables business outcomes. In other words, be pragmatic. Focus on those things that are most going to affect your business, and focus on those things first. Prophecy is a data quality company, and they do a really great job of taking in other perspectives and of what data governance is. They provide some definitions, some tools, and some frameworks. You can check that out. Data Governance Institute is another organization. So I think for data governance, I think it's important for us to educate ourselves, but the process is really being pragmatic, engage with the individuals that would have to otherwise deal with the fallout of an issue with data governance. Get those people involved early, find out what keeps them up at night, find out what the priorities are for them, bring them together so that you can say, I've got Jack in finance looking at this. I've got Sally in operations. She's looking at that. By establishing and working as a team with those people, you can then start to address your data governance and perhaps create a center of excellence for your organization with regards to your data governance. So these are some of the websites that I mentioned. Check them out with the links below. Again, you'll be able to get my slide deck from the GitHub repository, Data Governance Institute, and ride the Data Governance 2.0 wave. So check some of those out. Did we have any questions, Lynn?
Yeah, I appreciate you pausing for a minute. Just first a comment. I hear trust and truth and shared understanding, all these things that are so important with dealing with data. And I loved your comment about, you know, who's your front line? Who are the people that are going to be, you know, have their heads in the chopping block if things go wrong. So all that is so important when dealing with data. So I appreciate you bringing up all that as a pitfall. And a question that came out: what role does leadership play in preventing these common pitfalls, and how can executives better support data analytics initiatives?
Yeah, I think it comes back to that point of, you need to find that individual or individuals. It really makes sense to have more than one sponsor for your data project. someone who's really affected by what it is that you'll be delivering, someone who can see the vision, having that individual in your corner is going to help you be successful. It's also going to help your executive understand they're going to have someone to go to. And again, if you've got more than one person, if you're going to affect more than one department, you're going to have more cheerleaders, you're going to have more support, and you're going to be able to have them remove those roadblocks that perhaps you on your own would not be able to do. And I think that has the most impact. So ignoring the skill gap. Now, this is another one that I think, uh, you know, it resonated because a colleague of mine posted something on LinkedIn shortly after I committed to doing this session, and I said, "Yep, okay, we're going to talk about that." And Kellen Gorman from Redgate Software posted indicated that they have the Redgate Software does the state of the data landscape. They do this. They've done this every year since 2017, I believe. They put out a survey to thousands of participants, asking them what's taking place on their data landscape. And one of the questions focused on the barriers faced when participating in professional development activities. In other words, training. And this is dealing with that skill gap. You can see 67% of the people lacked the time. It wasn't the financial barrier that was there, and it is the biggest one. Lack of financial support is 39%, but the biggest one is the lack of time. We need to give people time to learn new technologies if we want them to implement new technologies. But of course, followed by limited availability of relevant training, lack of management support, personal reasons, and other. But training resources are available, but no time to focus on learning sounds like the biggest oversight and the easiest solution to fix. And I think it comes from just frank conversations with the business on expectations. We don't want to be dealing with a fake it until you make it. You don't want to be producing quality. It'll be difficult to produce quality systems when you don't have people with the knowledge to create it. They're sort of learning as they go along. You want to have solutions that are developed at a fast pace, and this isn't going to provide that. There's a stress of learning new products and patterns while attempting to deliver the solution, but also likely to support those other systems. How often are individuals in an organization given that opportunity to put other things aside as they develop new solutions? No, they're doing some juggling. They're doing some context switching. We'd like to think we're really good at multitasking as human beings, but in reality, it's called context switching, and we don't do quite as well as we think we do. So how do we bridge that gap? Okay, well, let's give the people more time to learn. Also, let them learn in the manner that works best for them. Some people like in-person instructor-led. Other people like online instructor-led, so they don't have to travel. Other people like online recorded so that they can do it when best suits their schedule. Maybe their schedule is constantly changing and they have to take a little bit here and a little bit there. Perhaps there are individuals who love to break open the book and go through a few chapters of things. Understand that different learners have different manners in which they learn best. Give them those resources. Another opportunity is encourage them to validate their learning. Certification exams do that. They give you a sense of, oh, I took some time and I learned those things, and I went over and I took an exam and it tells me, yes, you've learned those things. It's a good way of just measuring your success. So there's that as an opportunity as well. Also defining learning paths for the roles to ensure that individuals that do those things in a group, maybe it's ETL developers, maybe it's designing dimensional models, maybe it's creating reports with certain types of tools. By going through and defining training and expected outcomes from in a learning path gives you that opportunity to make sure that those individuals are on the same page and they feel accomplished. That it's similar to the validation of their skills. It's like, okay, we're on the right track here. I think the other thing too is a lot of time training is focused on a product, but we also it's important to look at patterns and practices. And so often we focus on the products. It's the patterns and practices, like a dimensional load of a data warehouse. You've got certain activities that take place, and to really know and understand those patterns, yes, you'll implement those with a product, but understanding how those patterns and practices work are really paramount to getting a quality product. So take some time to learn those as well. And once again, improving can help. We provide mentorship and training, and we can help build a data product with you and your team. And we can also teach them to fish as opposed to doing the fishing for you. So there's different opportunities. Reach out to Improving and find out more. So lack of a playbook. And I've used the word playbook, and I sort of think you can use many other words in that space. Maybe methodology, maybe guide, maybe framework for success. I like this playbook. I like the playbook analogy because I could make use of this. I believe if someone should jump in, this is a football playbook or plan, if you will. I would suspect. Doesn't look like hockey, but it looks a lot like potentially football. So I'm going to go with that. But hey, I know SQL, I know Python, I've got this. Well, you need more than just the technical chops to be successful at executing a strategy for a data product. You need some frameworks and some methodologies, some patterns and practices, a playbook. Maybe you need the project management body of knowledge. You might say, but we're agile. We've got Scrum, we've got Kanban, we've got all those are great methodologies. It helps to have, though, probably a playbook that references what it is you're attempting to do as well. But most importantly, I like this one. If you fail to plan, you plan to fail. This is one of my playbooks that I've used over the years, and it's from 2008. It's old, but you still have organizations that talk about the Kimball methodology. This is actually the life cycle toolkit. The life cycle toolkit, the first 4 chapters, I tell people, those are the chapters that are timeless. They help you set you up for success in a program or project related to data solutions. So you need structure, you need process, you need business engagement and business sign-off. A playbook is going to help structure those things so that you ensure that they're there. The project management body of knowledge is another great resource, and the Project Management Institute puts this out to help provide project managers, program managers, a playbook for getting work done. It's a predictable framework that the rest of the business understands, and they know, it's going to address a communication. It's going to have a communication plan. It's going to have a risk plan. It's going to have these things that are important for the long-term success of a program. And, in reality, these things, they provide structure. They ensure that communication takes place. It ensures that there's budgeting and resource planning can take place. But I think, too, for me, the most important thing is it's the ability for us to learn from others' mistakes. I'm going to make enough mistakes on my own in this world. It certainly helps to stand on the shoulders of the people before me that have come across these challenges, that can share them with me, and I can avoid making them in the future. But once again, Improving does have some online Scrum training that they offer. I think, agile methodologies are really fantastic. People say, oh, but Scott, Kimball's not very agile. You can take and you can break a life cycle toolkit project, and you can make it very agile, breaking it down into sprints. So I encourage you to think about that. Once again, improving.com/services/training for more information on that. So I guess with that is, what mistakes did I miss that you think are important and I should have discussed? And do you have a story to share? So with that, I do have some closing thoughts before we go on to that. And I think, maybe all is not lost. Maybe it looks like your project is dead. Maybe you're in need of resuscitation. As my wife says, she teaches grade 1, mistakes are an opportunity to learn and grow. So perhaps all is not lost. Recovery is possible. Step back and assess. Be humble. Engage with the business. Build trust and ask for help. And I think by doing those things, being human, seeking help from the business, you can right the ship. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Lynn and see if there's any more
Yes.
questions.
First of all, I love that. I raised my kids and always tell them that help is a 4-letter word, but it's not a bad one. So do love that ask for help. Another one we use is be curious at improving.
Be
And
curious.
yeah,
Absolutely.
love that
Yes.
one.
Yes.
And we do have a couple of questions. So
Okay.
we're going to go back to second for the one that I relate to quite a bit. No clear goals or objectives. So on the topic of documents, for establishing a goal, scope, etc., what documents do you recommend creating, and how do you cover your bases without going overkill? Uh,
I think that the SMART goals gives you 5 nice little points. What jot down some of the ones that come to you before going to the business and just get some thoughts on, hey, what are the goals and objectives? Make them specific, make them measurable, make them achievable, and time bound. Get some of those goals down, and then again, the tasks required to achieve those goals. What needs to actually take place, and get those down. Be realistic, be pragmatic, get some of those down, and then engage with a few people in business, just a few people initially, to get some thoughts on what their goals and objectives would be. You're going to be serving them with a data solution. They're the ones that need to be satisfied. So find out if your goals are in alignment with what they need within a time frame that works for them. If by doing these things, you're going to be able to deliver a product to them. I think that's where you start. And once you've talked to 1 or 2 people, open it up a little bigger, see if there's other things. Perhaps your goals and objectives will change as the conversation takes place with the business. You've got the opportunity to get those people inspired and get those people part of the conversation, and they'll appreciate it and they'll respond if what you're doing is authentic and it speaks to them. They're going to be so happy that someone cares about the work that they do and wants to help them move forward in the organization, to answer more valuable questions, to free up maybe 8 hours of their week that maybe they were doing manual updates to support a dashboard as opposed to automating it. And if you're looking to automate it for them, they're going to get 8 hours a day more in their life where they can provide higher value to the organization. That might be a good strategy to go.
I've got one more. Looks like we still have a little time left.
Sure.
So, which of the 5 critical mistakes do you think is the most common, and why does it often go unnoticed until it's too late? Oh boy.
I think the reason why the readiness thing really resonates with me is so often I've heard and seen that be the case in the past. And now maybe that's the past and it doesn't happen as much anymore. But I think there's an understanding that sometimes people don't trust IT. And sometimes the organizations, the departments within an organization that manage data products have tended to be IT in the past, and to some extent, that's the focus is moving to the business. But I think that perhaps is still today is probably a large amount of data products are developed by IT, and so I think it's important that the business sponsor not be IT, it actually be an individual that is responsible for a piece of the business. And I think when you have when you have a CIO is your only sponsor, I think that puts things at risk because we make the assumption that, oh, we know the business, we know what the business needs, and then we don't engage with the business enough to give them the skin in the game. And I think that is probably the biggest one for me. But
Yeah, and you kind of led right into, another shameless plug for improving. If our ambition is to change that perception of the IT professional,
yeah,
that, it's not just this black box that spends a lot of money. There's a lot of value to be provided, and partnering with, business and technology is so important these days to get the correct results.
yeah, yeah. And I think that's why Curtis really talks and focuses on the speed of trust as
Mhm.
something to address that, right?
Yeah,
So
definitely.
yeah, yeah.
All
So
right. Well, I'm going to turn it back over to you for your closing comment, and then you can turn it over to Armando.
mistakes are an opportunity to grow. Recovery is possible. Step back and reassess. Engage the business. Build trust and ask for help. Those were my closing remarks. But I think to jump on further is we have what's coming for the rest of the month. My colleague Mike Deal is going to be talking about unlocking the power of metadata driven pipelines in Microsoft Fabric. If you are in Atlanta this week, on Saturday, Mike will be presenting at SQL Saturday on this topic. But if you're unable to make that, check in next Wednesday, the 12th, and you'll hear how we use metadata-driven data pipelines to get work done in our data solutions. And so from fragmented knowledge to unified insights, the power of clean data. This speaks to me. I'm definitely going to check this one out as well. And then we have a team of 3 presenters, Sergio, Paloma, and Francisco are going to be talking on visualizing the complex, a delicate dance of trade-offs. So some really good data presentations this month. Check them out, improving.com/thoughts/webinars, and hope to see you at those events.
Very exciting schedule ahead of us we have for you. So we want to thank all of you for joining us today, but especially Scott Stoffer for such a fun and insightful session. What a great way to start our data month. Thank you, Scott. And of course, Lynn, my lovely co-producer. Coming up next week, as he said, we will continue this series with the webinar Unlocking the Power of Metadata-Driven Data Pipelines on Microsoft Fabric. We're going to see you next week. So thank you. Until next time, have a great rest of your day. Thank you again, Scott.